Here at Summit, we build community. For us, this means surrounding yourself with the people who inspire you the most. It means creating friendships among like-minded individuals and accelerating these relationships with dynamic shared experiences. It doesn't matter what discipline you're in. What matters most is your passion and that you're striving to create positive change in the world. Summit is made up of entrepreneurs and artists, neuroscientists and musicians, nonprofit founders and global explorers, humble innovators and diverse thinkers from around the world. And for the past 7 years, we've worked to foster this community and have created environments that catalyze these relationships. We've gathered thousands in mountain towns, chartered ocean liners to secluded tropical islands, created temporary tent villages, and held events in our nation's capital, all with the purpose of creating a canvas to connect, educate, and inspire one another, and to help push the world forward to effect positive change. In order for a community to flourish and grow, it needs roots. So in April 2013, we purchased Powder Mountain in Eden, Utah, the largest ski mountain in America. It's here where we're building a town on top of our mountain. We fill this place with long table dinners, performances under the stars, mornings filled with untracked powder, and afternoon sessions led by experts across all industries. Since we've arrived, we've paved roads, laid infrastructure, built lodges, and dug wells. We've opened restaurants, installed ski lifts, constructed sculptures, and have been working hard to bring our village into reality. We gather a global community of thought leaders and innovators, and we are building the physical place we want to live and spend time in. We believe we all have the opportunity to be the change that we want to see in the world, and that anything is possible. So here's to the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Amel Najjar. I'm the founder of Children of War Foundation. On behalf of the entire Summit and Sorensen Impact team, we want to thank you for joining us for this demo day focused on organizations who identify in cause areas of education, opportunity youth, and homelessness. Although we're not in person, you will have a chance to engage with the founders in the chat boxes, as well as a session in the Hubelo room right after the broadcast ended. Again, on behalf of our entire team, we are honored to have you join us and thrilled to introduce you to these founders.
I am Meredith Spriggs, the Chief Kindness Officer at Caridad in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is estimated that by summer of 2021, there will be 800,000 Americans experiencing homelessness, primarily homeless families, and this is due to quarantine lockdowns and massive evictions. Who is Caridad? Well, I founded it 10 years ago after I experienced homelessness myself, having a master's degree in 2008 and then overcame. I believe in providing donors with 100% transparency. And in 2014, we served as the federal lead for the 25 Cities campaign and also served as the Southern Nevada Outreach Lead Coordinator. In 2015, we were recognized by the federal government for our role in ending veterans' homelessness in Southern Nevada. And in 2017, we were featured in People magazine for our innovative approaches to ending homelessness. So what we do. Caridad Gardens is a jobs program, and we use gardening to help reintegrate formerly homeless veterans back into the workplace. And we have an indoor hydroponic farm located in downtown, and our produce is sold at local bars and restaurants. And on the right there, you see the gentleman with the planter bin. So if our clients are disabled or just feeble medically, they can have a planter bin at their home, and they get paid weekly to grow out of their planter boxes, and they grow things that we can't grow in a vertical garden. This is our leadership team. It is not by design that it is all females, but it is definitely by choice. They all possess skills that I do not have. We have health and wellness coaches, a licensed social worker, and even a film student that helps create our social media content. This is our 4-year past history of revenue. You can see in 2017, we had $211,000 in revenue. In 2018, we had $136,000 in revenue. It dropped down because we lost our contracts for service, but we came back in 2019 with the garden concept and got back up to $159,000. And as of right now, we are at $200,000. However, we just received a $1.5 million grant award from the federal government. We have not yet received those funds. So what is the ask? We have strategic partnerships with the federal government, actually every level of government, and insurance providers. We need help. We got that 1.5 million, but we need to supplement it before year end so we can purchase and get started 2 more farms at local shelters. And we want a partner that will also assist with us in our big picture vision of replicating this. If there is an area around the country that has a food desert and homelessness, we can scale up and do this project there. So what we're asking of you financially is $300,000. And this is the breakdown of what the expenses will go to. So it's majority homeless salaries. We're shooting with the 2 new farms to at least hire a minimum of 80 new homeless people. 10% is support staff, 25% the 2 new farm pods, programming at another 25%, and the utilities cost is what that's covering. And what do you get out of it? So most importantly is access to our data. We track everything on our clients. We track their demographics. We track the number of encounters and the nature of the encounters. We track their wellness data with our health partners like Anthem Medicaid, and we can show how their overall health is improving. And then also the nutrients. Our big picture dream is to show how people's overall quality of life is helped by the introduction of fresh produce, and eventually maybe big picture testing our macro, micronutrients and trace minerals comparatively to grocery store produce, and I want to show how nutrient dense our produce is. In addition to that, it covers our wellness programming on Wednesdays. We have free nutrition coaching, cooking classes, workouts, heart math, and business makeovers for clients wanting to go to jobs. That's all free. All those materials you would have access to use, and again, if we scale up, to use in other communities. Also for the youth, we offer classes where the kids get to take home seed bombs, sprout kits. They have Saturday gardening classes, free workout classes, and compost classes. And again, all this programming would be available to you to use, and as we replicate around the country, to use in other communities. This is my contact info. If you would like to reach out to me directly, you may do so. Here's how you get in touch with me. And I want to leave with this quote. This is my good friend, recently retired CEO of Zappos, Tony Shea, and he just passed last week. And this is a quote from him, and he was instrumental in getting the garden project off the ground. He donated our first garden pod and has been our first big contributor. So a huge loss for us, but we hope to carry out the vision that he had for us.
Meredith, thank you for that presentation. I have a few follow-up questions. One is that I can appreciate your efforts to tackle homelessness in such a unique way. As you know, homelessness is a huge problem in the US and even globally in different contexts. And what's really worrisome is that we've yet to see the economic implications due to the current pandemic. My question is, are the persons experiencing homelessness in your program specifically interested in gardening, or is this something that you introduce as a form of therapy or employment?
We've only had a couple that previously had gardening experience. However, it is something that we brought everyone into, and how we picked our farmers is the case manager's referral. A lot of these people had behavioral problems or weren't really maybe doing so well in their programming. And so these are the hardest of hard to help, and we've introduced gardening into their lives.
Okay, and have you had any pushback with these individuals?
Surprisingly, no. And almost some of them immediately, we had an individual that hadn't even showered or been getting out of bed, and he has just perked right up and he has some of the best plants. And so we have seen literally almost the instant that we introduce these little baby plants to our farmers that it makes all the world of difference in their lives.
Oh, wow. Very cool. I really like the fact that you're working with healthcare insurance companies like Anthem to address wellness. I also think that there is growth potential beyond employment and gardening to scale and develop programming. For what I know about produce, I know it's generally does not make money, and why much of it is subsidized by the government. Perhaps that's why I'm leaning more towards the wellness and potential source of revenue through insurance companies. Have you considered creating value-based contracts with payers or providers as a source of revenue for impact on driven well-being data?
Absolutely. And we started, that was our pilot program for our very first farm that we started was with Anthem. And so their members, we have a back end system where their members enroll so they can run them in their system. They can be tracking those health outcomes, those doctors and hospital visits to show how their overall health is improved. And then they get to attend our health and wellness classes for free. We track that in our back end data system too. So we have the capability by partnering with Anthem that we can have our data. So we have an assessment that we do on the front end that's a vulnerability service tool that the feds require us to all do. So we do that. We test their social, all different outside behavioral factors. And then on the end, when they exit our program and are housed, we do that again. And then as with the Anthem data, they have the capability to scrub that personal information. So we're not violating anything with HIPAA. And then we're also talking about possibly partnering with United for their members to also be a part of our free produce program. That's what Anthem has right now, is a free produce program.
Okay, got one more question here for you. Are there financial incentives by insurance companies for successful completion of your employment program or a transition of it?
You mean for us or for the clients?
Well, for your individuals that are coming in to work on the gardening and.
Yes, so they are paid employees. So it depends on what they do. As I mentioned earlier, they have in the farm, they get paid an hourly wage. So they are hourly part-time. And then what's different about us is we're a low barriers program. So we don't require sobriety. Say if they miss a day or two or a week, we had someone go absent for a week. We worked with the case manager, went and checked on them, came up with a case plan to help them. So it's a little bit different than a regular job. I tell people we try to make it as hard as possible to get fired. And then our planter bins, the remote gardeners, they have disabilities or maybe are still deep in their addiction. And so those are housed people that have addiction or disability mobility issues, and they have that ability to grow from home as well, and they're growing things that we can't grow vertically in our garden. So I tell everybody there's no wrong door for a program. If they need us, we want to give them a job and give them a place.
Got it. Okay, now I have a little more clarity as to the description on the salaries. You say that you're spending 30% on salaries for these homeless individuals. Do you have a number of how many hours they'll be spending? Since it's not a regular workflow?
It can be, depending on if they're in a planter bin, it's just every day. It's super simple. It's not that many hours. So they get a stipend. They get $50 a week. With the hourly, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 on up to 20. And we base that on their ability. So for example, we have a veteran with degenerative arthritis, and she's scheduled 20, but she only really does about 10 hours a week. So anywhere, like I said, from 5, 10, or 20, it's just based on their abilities. They can get up to 20. And the only reason they're not full time with us is because that's based on the restrictions that they have with their case managers or their current programming. Like say for shelter clients, for example, they can only work so many hours because of the shelter programming.
Okay, great. Thank you. I wish you the best of luck. I think this has some great potential, and I see it, expanding beyond the gardening employment and looking at features that incorporate wellness. And getting these insurance companies to align and and figure out the problem. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Ava Pipitone, and this is Host Home Inc. We heal housing systems because inefficiencies, cracks in housing systems matter. I know firsthand that community is critical. Our kids will live in co-living. This innovative asset class where community collaboration unlocks the innovation quotient of our generation is experiencing a 5% month-over-month rise in inquiries during the pandemic. And the distressed assets in the urban core are poised to be repositioned. Operators are moving in, and so is capital. This is an opportunity to define inclusion in housing moving forward. If we fail to act, it will become the domain of the affluent, homogenous. Patrick has been an advisor to co-living operators throughout Manhattan and does corporate real estate there. Cyrus does impact technology around the world, over 100 different countries. iQuantile is active as a data partner and a systems partner. Donald Summers thinking about interoperability between legacy government platforms in the social services sector and the tenant management systems in the co-living sector. Let's talk about data later. Ryan Fix, a pioneer in co-living, seen as the godfather of the movement, has advised every operator in Manhattan and many in Europe and Asia Pacific. I've lived firsthand, and after seeing too many folks fall through the cracks, I've had enough. Let's heal this thing, starting with how they got their money. So an operator secures affordable housing dollars and they commit to 20% affordable units, but struggle often to deliver that because of community cohesion with ideological, class, race, and gender diversity. No longer. A complete tenant management suite where the DNA of our product emerges from the DNA of your brand, your community, your people. Tenants can appreciate one another based on these values. When someone's not getting appreciation, it's time for that property manager, community manager to give some more support. The API of our platform intends to be compatible with other wellness and mindfulness APIs. Think BetterHelp, Uber, Calm, etc. Event curation happening also through the platform. One-stop shop, co-living in a box. Pricing anchored in tenant reduction in tenant turnover and increase in inquiries per month. Vacancies in co-living are less than 1%. This is where everybody is right now. 30K annual recurring revenue target, starting with the operators pilot typically one or two of their assets. Once we prove traction, we aim to expand to their entire portfolios and hit that 30K ARR per client. We won't start there, but in year one, we hope to be there with several operators. This market is significant. Globally, 93 billion, but look at India with that 14 billion and 17% compound annual growth rate. Like, if you're talking about real estate, you're talking about impact, you're talking about inclusion, you want to be focused on co-living. We have a significant opportunity here. 45,000 beds coming online. New York is running pilots already with affordable housing systems and co-living operators. 5.7 million beds expected over the next 5 years. If we create that interoperability that we spoke of before with legacy social services systems, which we are positioning ourselves to do with this product, the public health data opportunity is significant. Psychometric profile of upwardly mobile tenants, visualizing the social service recipients like never before. Let's look for 10 clients in year one, 100 clients by year two, which brings us to 3 million, but that's recurring, so evaluation is more significant. At year two, we plan a second capital call, expanding our partners based on certain metrics. Let's talk later. Right now, our prototype needs to become a shippable product, and we need to determine that actual cost of customer acquisition. Dial it in a little bit. That's where you come in. Our innovation pipeline, which features are actually bringing value, and what is the lifetime value per client? We imagine we're online for an operator, we're online the whole time, say 6, 10 years, but let's actually dial that in. You can find a housemate with BedBetter. You can find a unit in a co-living with apartments.com, and you can talk to people on Slack. Host Home brings it together and seeds your values throughout the platform. 1.5 million finishes the product and expands us. Institutional channel partners with global reach. That is the goal. Who belongs with us? I say you do. Let's do this.
Eva, I thought that Host Home was awesome. I think your idea is great, but I do have some questions. One is how do you plan on addressing the challenges of limited affordability pipeline supply, such as huge populations and market like in California? As you know, the availability of affordability in units with qualified tenants in today's challenges is real, and there's real digress happening in these markets. The cost of high rent because of government, administrative, and regulatory cost even exacerbate it. And then the lower wage workers will not qualify. How do you address that?
Amel, thank you for this question. We're seeing exactly what you're seeing. How do we address the supply in affordable housing, especially in a pipeline approach? As we mentioned in the pitch, that these operators, when building assets, commit to 20% of units receiving affordable housing vouchers or upwardly mobile tenants and struggle to deliver on that commitment. This is a whole host of reasons. And while, yes, we're delivering a software solution to ensure cohesion when such tenants are in these communities, on the back end of that, we're part of a consortium, an emerging consortium, to have interoperability and social services with tenant management systems in the co-living sector. So we actually see a future where these units throughout the co-living segment are all an increase in supply for affordable housing directly for those communities you mentioned.
Okay, got it. All right, I have another question here for you.
Thank you.
If someone has the money and they're looking for a place and they need it now, and they have specific criteria, why wouldn't they just do their online research and find a place with companies like apartment.com or Craigslist or even Airbnb? What makes your platform unique compared to theirs?
Right. So we're enabling co-living. So when you think about the differences between co-living and just hospitality overall, really duration of stay is a main differentiator. Yes, the transformational economy, transformational hospitality is huge in Airbnb, and Chip Connolly's advisor has really brought that into the forefront these days. But we're doing the same thing in co-living, and the Host Home platform enables co-living. So when we white label our tenant management suite to an operator, we can flag their values and support the curation of events so that 3 or 4 day stay in an Airbnb platform can stretch to a 3 to 6 month stay in a co-living community. Because when you find value aligned community, you collaborate. When you collaborate, we grow, we evolve, and we belong.
Awesome. I think you have a great idea here, and I see it growing and taking off. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Amel.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vanessa Luna, and I'm the co-founder and chief program officer of ImSchools, an immigrant-led nonprofit transforming schools into safe and welcoming spaces for our immigrant and undocumented students and families. I want to start today with a short story, a story of Perla, a 6th grade public school student who dreams of becoming a lawyer one day and whose favorite subject is history. One day after class, she turns to her teacher and says, "Miss, they got him." She was referring to immigration custom enforcement. Her father had been detained on his way to work. She went to the school for support and resources. And unfortunately, the school didn't have the tools to support her or her family. Within 3 months, the family was deported back to a country that was no longer their home. The school was reactive rather than proactive in their response and did not have the tools and resources to support the unique needs of Perla. Now I know this story firsthand because I was that teacher. I was Miss Luna, Perla was my student, And I grew up undocumented in the K-12 system and was a documented teacher and witnessed firsthand the need to support the undocumented community. Perla is a part of the 3.9 million students who are either undocumented or have undocumented families within our K-12 schools. Despite an institutional right for them to access public schools in the United States, less than 1% of school districts have concrete practices and policies to support the unique need of our immigrant community. IMSchools sees this as an opportunity for change. We're an immigrant-led nonprofit that partners closely with schools and educators to ensure they're safe and inclusive spaces for our immigrant community. We do this through a three-pronged approach, offering professional development for our educators, for them to build skills around culturally responsive teaching and trauma-informed policies to support our immigrant community. We work closely with our schools to ensure their policies are pro-immigrant and inclusive of our immigrant experience. And lastly, we work closely with students and families to tap into our inherent power through community center workshops inside and outside of our schools. Our unique three-pronged approach is ensuring that schools are safe and welcoming for all, regardless of immigration status. We're the only national organization working towards immigrant justice within the K-12 system. Since our launch, we've impacted over 4,000 participants and partnered with 20 plus organizations. We have been recognized by Fast Company as one of the most innovative nonprofits in the education space in 2020 and have been featured in other national entities. Our programs are showing and moving the needle. 100% of our students and families are able to now have greater access to their rights inside of and outside of our schools. 95% of our educators have increased their understanding of the undocumented experience and implemented a culturally responsive practice within their school and classroom. And finally, our school partners are implementing pro-immigrant policies within their schools and systems. Our team has over 20 plus years of collective experience as both immigrants, formerly undocumented, and individuals working in the K-12 system. We have been supported by national and regional entities, both in the private and public sector, working in either or both immigrant justice and also educational equity. We are now at a critical moment of pivotal catalytic impact. Our model is strong and growing with an increased demand. We must grow our efforts to meet that need. We're closing a round of $100,000. These funds will support our program growth by growing our program team and expanding our programs to current and new partners, which has the potential to impact an additional 500 immigrant families. We know we cannot do this alone, and so today I ask you to join us in supporting these efforts. You could either donate directly at imschools.org/donate, or you could connect with me, Vanessa@imschools.org, and learn more about our efforts. Join us as we work towards ensuring that our immigrant community within our schools is able to reach their fullest potential. Thank you.
Vanessa, thank you so much for that. I see you have potential to gain great insight through data and are very grounded in a significant policy that could be supported by national and local governments. My question to you is, how will you sustain your model while you focus on continuing to demonstrate a return on investment on many levels, not just for family, teachers, and students, that a return on investment should extend systematically through many layers of social and financial systems? Do you know what those impacts across those layers are? And if you don't, will you apply that data in the future?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question and for your support on this demo day for all of the fellows. I definitely think that as we think about immigrant justice and educational equity and the policies that are intersected within that, there's a deep, deep, deep potential to think through this through a systemic lens and think about the impact that it has on different systems, especially in an intersectional component. While we're still working around this return of investment across different sectors outside of the K-12 system, we are deeply, deeply committed to ensuring that one, that is centered on the immigrant students and families that lead our work and that are key component to our work. And that second, it is centered on the needs and the human rights of the immigrant community for them to access the resources and supports that they need across different sectors. We know that this will have a critical impact on not only our K-12 system, but also the entire country as a whole if we continue to invest and create safe and welcoming spaces for our immigrant communities in our schools.
Great, thank you for that. Does your program team up with existing social service programs that are already funded to help this particular population?
Yes, so we are really strategic around our partnerships, and we want to ensure that we're creating a level of trust between these social services that are often not necessarily inherited by the immigrant community as a result of deep, deep distrust of social and public entities. And so we work closely with the regional contacts that we're working with and ensure that we're building partnerships at a local level and connecting our students and families to the resources that they need, as well as ensuring that our educators are informed about the vast levels of resources that are available in the local context for our immigrant and undocumented community.
Okay, great. Vanessa, I could see this project being funded by government entities. Have you considered lobbying for funding in DC via legislative efforts, or perhaps identify a champion in Congress, and then even sponsor a bill not only to raise awareness, but to allocate funding for this? I think M Schools could use this as a platform and scale it nationally by training social service and education organizations to do the same work.
I so appreciate that question and that push, and it's giving me so many ideas around who M Schools can partner with and advocate with and for. I definitely think there's a really large potential to take this work at a larger national scale and find those champions that are supportive of us. If you know someone or anybody in the Summit community knows someone that we should be connecting with, please feel free to send them my way so that we can begin to cultivate those partnerships and those relationships to be able to tap into that type of larger scale power through a congressional support.
Absolutely, Vanessa. I look forward to seeing this grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
I tend to think a lot about perspective, seeing things from different points of view. For the last 20 years, my world has been surrounded by military personnel, which I realize is not most people's experience. Joining military service, the physical demands are to be expected, but nothing really prepares you for the toll it takes on your mental and emotional health, such as post-traumatic stress, depression, military sexual trauma. Let's take a step back for a minute and reframe this story from a different perspective. What if you were also a parent? How does your child see that from their perspective? Experiencing their mother's anxiety, depression, or their father's fear and distress. Let me give you some context. There are nearly 2 million military-connected kids worldwide. 1.3 million of them are school-aged, with 80% of them going to public schools and civilian communities. They live in every single zip code across the country. So regardless of your feelings about the military, positive or negative, I would hope we can all agree that the children of service members represent a group of young people that should fall outside any personal political beliefs, as they were born into this life. They live in your communities, belong to your churches, go to school with your children. The big challenges they face, separation, anxiety, isolation, are often related to the constant transitions they experience. It's reported military families will move 3 times more than their civilian counterparts. The children will experience increased stress, high anxiety, worrying, and in many cases, it's the non-military parent at home that has the greater impact on their mental health than the parent that is away. If any of you have had a parent struggling with mental health issues, you have an idea of how scary that can seem from this perspective of a child. Kids Rank improves the mental health of military children by supporting their social and emotional well-being. We want them to see the world from a positive perspective, drawing from their strengths, their adaptability, their persistence, their resilience, changing challenges in life into opportunity. And with the right framing, this is possible. Through our core pillars of connect, lead, and serve, we empower military kids in kindergarten through 10th grade to see their situation from a different perspective. connecting with other kids who understand what they're going through, building confidence with leadership activities to help lessen anxieties, getting out to serve others, helping with those feelings of isolation. We become an extension of their family. Since 2012, we've served nearly 600 military and veteran children. Several times a year, we offer family events to further promote community stability. Our leaders take the time to get to know each child, seeing their value. We've been featured in different media sources, and our families have been clear. 87% of them reporting that they would love to continue with Kids Rank at their next duty station. In the last 8 years, the kids that we have served have literally moved all over the world and are now in your neighborhoods and ready and waiting for us to arrive. Looking ahead, we want to be there to meet them where they are. And wherever that home is, we also need our civilian friends to be involved because we are already in your neighborhoods and our children are already friends with yours. Building communities of care is so important, and it should be our common goal to ensure we don't let kids fall out of sight. With only a handful of agencies specifically serving our military children, we are in a position to be a leader in a network that supports them. Within that network, we have a dedicated and diverse team of people representing both military and civilian populations. In addition, we have partners who want to see us succeed, all stepping forward during COVID to ensure that we are able to continue to move forward towards the larger vision. We will ultimately be an international organization with military installations located all over the world. We have developed key relationships knowing that the success in any other city depends on our ability to get it right here. At this time, we are looking for a $1.3 million investment over the next 3 years as we build the blueprint for our growth. We are already started the process. We now need others to step forward. For those of you that did not feel you had a connection to the military, you now know that you do. The next time you see a story of a service member being called to the front lines, struggling with post-traumatic stress, or the alarming rate of veteran homelessness, I want you to think, I wonder if they have children, and how can I be part of that team that helps them shape their new perspective? Thank you.
Kelsey, thank you for sharing your project. It really hit me as I can relate to why this program is needed, because I've witnessed tragedy within my own family when my 14-year-old cousin, whose father was a Marine for over 20 years, had harmed himself. His name was Chris Vincent, and he hurt himself in 2010 in San Diego due to social pressures and did not survive it. And when I think about what we were trying to do, he would probably be here today. So thank you for this. Kelsey, I'd like to ask, are these programs that Kids Rank will have or have developed, or are they programs by outside organizations that are providing these interactions?
So we do everything in-house. We partner with the Chicago School of Professional Psychology to work on our curriculum and help make sure that we're addressing the social and emotional needs of the kids. We will partner with other organizations and sometimes develop curriculum that might be a shared, project like the National Veterans Art Museum, but our core curriculum is developed internally.
Oh, excellent. Do you plan on obtaining measurable metrics beyond safe community and friends connections? Perhaps metrics such as grades in school or social counseling or therapy that may help gauge a child's mental health?
Absolutely. We actually formed a mental health committee within our board last year to address some of those things. And we're going through our very first formal evaluation. And this first one in this phase 1 is really to look at overall how we're impacting connections with kids and how we're doing with our curriculum. And then in the subsequent phases, we'll be looking at some of those other metrics that you mentioned as they are important. And we're 9 years, 8 years old. And so as we continue to go along, we'll be able to see some longitudinal impacts of some of the kids that have gone through our program and how they're faring and doing as a result of what we do.
Got it. Okay. And so this leads me to the next question. Your alumni, the kids that have gone through your program, Are they paying it forward, or is there a program where you could incorporate like a big brother or big sister within this community?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually really exciting. Some of our teens that have been a part of our program previously have now come back and are co-leaders with some of our pride groups that run, which is really great because they have that perspective of one, being a military child, but also having gone through the program, so know what to do. And we're excited this year, actually through our evaluation, we're forming a youth advisory board because it's really important for us as the kids get older to still maintain their perspective, to get their voice in input to what we're doing. So that actually we've already chosen, I think we have about 12 on the board, on the youth advisory board, and it'll kick off in January.
Okay, great. One more question here. So what is your strategic plan in Q1 next year? Can you tell me what that looks like?
Yeah, I'm really thrilled about it. We're at the place, we've had a program that has run and been, the programming we know works. And so now it's about how do we scale? How do we take what we're doing here in Illinois and move into other states and really other countries as we look to meet kids where they are. And so the strategic planning that starts in either January or February will allow us to think through those things, as well as how we both fund it and provide the resources needed to make it successful. So the funders that we already have on board that are working with us through the plan understand that it's not just the plan that we need to be able to fund how and have the resources on how to make that plan, implement that plan.
Perfect. I think I think Kids Rank is great, and I really want to see it grow. And I'm more than happy to help you advocate. And so do please reach out.
That's wonderful. I appreciate it, and I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you for taking the time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lamar Chambly, and I'm the founder and executive director of Teens of Color Abroad. I want to start by sharing a story of one of my former students named Mercy. At the top of this year, through TOCA, we were able to sponsor Mercy's very first passport. And after she received her passport, I interviewed her and asked her her future plans of travel. And she said, "I am not limited to one language or region." And I felt like this was a perfect encapsulation of what Teens of Color Abroad does. When I was Mercy's age, I was very similar. I was equally obsessed with the Spanish language and looking forward to my first international experience that I didn't have until I was in college, thanks to the generosity of my academic advisors. And so as a high school Spanish teacher, it was an incredible privilege to be able to stand in front of kids who look like me and come from my same background and to hear their excitement about language. And what they told me was that 1 hour of Spanish class just wasn't enough. And they asked me if I could leave teaching and create a program that expands language learning opportunities for high school students of color. And that's exactly what I did. 2 years ago, I left teaching full-time and started Teens of Color Abroad. We're a nonprofit organization that provides high school students of color with global language learning opportunities. And in the less than 2 years that we've been formed, we've sponsored US passports for 20 students, enrolled over 100 students in our TOCA online program, impacted over 400 students through our in-person and virtual programming, and awarded over $20,000 in scholarships to teens of color across the US. And our outcomes, our intended outcomes for this program, through the implementation of an in-person study abroad experience, that we could enhance students' language learning opportunities. There's data that shows that when students of color have these opportunities, that it augments their educational outcomes. And through the use of science-based global competency frameworks, we can strengthen students' global competency skills. And so there are 3 big problems happening in education, which is why we know that TOCA is necessary. Currently, only 20% of US K-12 students are enrolled in a foreign language course. There's a large transatlantic language divide happening compared to their European peers whose participation soars above 90%. Roughly 6% of US students study abroad identify as Black, and only 4% of undergrad degrees in world languages are held by Black students. And so this summer, we adapted to our community needs by partnering with Nata Kalam. Together with them, we've designed the Toka Online virtual Arabic language learning and cultural exchange program, where our students take 10 hours of Arabic classes. They participate in cultural exchange workshops to hear from the lived experiences of refugees. They connect with other globally minded teens, and they leverage a unique opportunity during this time for their college applications. And so since we started this program, we've received over 250 student application for our virtual programming, showing the demand for a program like this from high school students across the country. And thankfully, the program is going incredibly well. We have lots of student testimonials to speak about the impact that this program has on them currently and their future plans.
My name is.
And thankfully, in less than 7 months, we've been able to expand our programming and impact over 100 students through our Toka Online program. And so we're asking for $300,000 to expand our programming in Spanish and French to impact over 500 students by the end of 2021. We are a mutual aid organization during this time. So we are able to provide zero-cost language learning and cultural exchange experiences to high school students of color from across the country, and also provide an income for refugees abroad dispersed throughout the world. And so I want to thank you for your time, for hearing more about teens of color abroad and allowing us to cultivate the next generation of globally conscious youth of color. Thank you.
Hi, Lamar. Thanks so much. That was an awesome presentation. I have a couple of questions for you. You mentioned impacting over 400 students. Can you define that impact a little?
Yeah, absolutely. And so before the virus outbreak, we had a few different in-person events. So that was students receiving passports. And then we also collaborated with the Benjamin Gilman International Scholarship Program to hold workshops on how to financially access study abroad programs. And then we've had a few virtual events. And so the 400 students is a combination of all of those different in-person and virtual events.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And I see that you are working with Nata Kalam, which is a great organization. I actually know about that organization, and I think they're doing, fantastic work. How is Toka providing an income for refugees with that partnership? And does that income also apply for the French and Spanish teachers when you do have that programming?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the beautiful things about an organization like Nata Kalam is that they offer income to refugees during this time so that they can work safely from home. And so through our partnership with them, we're offering this virtual program free of charge to our students while supporting the refugees, their language teachers.
Oh, perfect. Well, Lamar, I know that there are a ton of funders out there like the Stevens Initiatives who are specifically looking for virtual exchange programs and specifically to collect data and outcomes that address cross-cultural learning and skills building. So I think your program is headed in the right direction.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited for this and what we hope to do for students across the country.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daquan, and I am the founder of We Thrive. At We Thrive, we're equipping underestimated youth to own their future. At present, there's more than 11 million children living in poverty in the United States alone. As data shows, 61% of these children will remain in the lowest income quintile, even as adults. And when we throw racial and socioeconomic factors into the mix, the outlook looks even more grim, with recent studies showing that median Black household wealth has declined by 75%. Children today face a cycle in which the current systems of education, access to quality jobs, and pathways of economic mobility are ensuring that they will not acquire adequate resources to close these very same gaps of prosperity. And that is where We Thrive comes in. We Thrive incubates the next generation of innovators, change makers, and economic leaders. Our youth are identifying a problem in their local community, sharpening their ideas into viable startups, and then using the seed funding that we provide them to launch micro enterprises, earning real revenues and traction along the way. Like the youth you see pictured here, or youth like Charger Shark, a group of 7th graders who identified that their peers were leaving their Chromebooks at home and the adults around them only had one solution: remember it. So Charger Shark founded their company so that they could rent out chargers on a daily and weekly basis to their peers. And not only did this group of 7th graders earn over $500 in revenues in their first month, but they ensured that their peers could show up each day ready to participate. We could tell you stories like this across the nation. We Thrive is active in over 16 states. Our youth are coming from primarily underrepresented backgrounds, 84% coming from low-income backgrounds, and over 5 million hours have been spent collectively by our youth as they build their companies. In the past 5 years alone, we've worked with more than 6,000 youth entrepreneurs, and for every dollar invested, they've generated 3 for their communities. 84% of our young CEOs continue running their ventures or found one after the first year, proving that this is not just a one-time thing. And to do so, we had to build something that mattered for our communities. With many organizations, at times it could be so hands-on that it fails to scale to other communities. We Thrive, on the other hand, is a web app built to scale to millions with quality assured KPIs. We also had to ensure that we're something that could embrace all youth. We Thrive comes with culturally relevant learning that opens the door for a diverse set of economic leaders and its next generation. We had to ensure that teachers can do it. Though they may not be entrepreneurs themselves, with our comprehensive support, with our comprehensive training, and more importantly, ongoing support, we ensure that their youth are set up to succeed. And the biggest question, is it real? Does it really happen? As you can see from the young entrepreneur counting our money here, it's always tangible experience, which is exactly what's required to succeed in tomorrow's economy and the pathway to economic prosperity. We provide dedicated seed funding to ensure that our youth can do it. And last is it's just a one-time experience, a one and done. Thanks to our alumni portfolio, we provide follow-on support through the age of 25, so that alumni pictured here like Megan have access to elite entrepreneurs like local TEDx partnerships and others. As a result, we're loved by district leaders like Dr. Morrell, Associate Superintendent at Buffalo Public Schools, loved by teachers like Shane, and even social sector influencers like Hillary Clinton. Our vision is simple: to make sure that every community can offer this level of intensive economic training for our youth. Along the way, we've partnered with others who believe in our vision, like AT&T, Fossil, Echo and Green, and Ashoka, and have even been named to the Forbes 30 under 30 list for our innovations. Right now, as we enter 2021, we're on track to scale to more than 20,000 youth entrepreneurs in 2021, but we can't do it alone. We've raised 40% of 1.8 million so far. And if you are someone that is looking to fund the vision, introduce us to program partners or a program partner yourself, or volunteer to assist with this next batch of economic leaders, please get in touch with me today. Thank you.
Brilliant. I love We Thrive. I really like the hybrid model of using philanthropic contributions to seed fund micro enterprises. I really think that this is the future as we transition from an employment economy to a gig economy, and now to a more self-reliant entrepreneurial economy as a way going forward for youth to plan for their future and participate in their communities. So good job for that. My question relates to the entrepreneurs you are seed funding. Are they allocating a portion of their return on investment back into We Thrive as a source of revenue for both their enterprise and yours?
So yes, our youth are, once they reach a certain threshold in their revenues, they then do repay the seed grant that we provided to them. So that ensures a win-win in all cases. Again, no matter what, everyone's walking away with the skills they need to succeed in those next steps. But if you've also reached that threshold, you're now at a point where you can sustain your company right? With the revenues that you continue to generate, and also pave the way for future generations of entrepreneurs to participate as well.
Okay, got it. You mentioned program partners. Can you tell me what that entails? Have you considered creating a program with your partners to engage your students and teachers, perhaps identifying opportunities or gaps to find innovative solutions for partners as a source of creating new ideas?
Yeah, so our program partners in many cases can be diverse. Most reliably, it's school partners, and so you have your schools, your districts, and your teachers. We also work with community-based organizations. We work with a ton of YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs, and then lastly, we work with workforce investment boards. These are every single county in the nation has one. They're the ones responsible for your teen workforce training programs that you might see. And so we also partner with them along this kind of economic training as well. Now, in that lane, at the end of the day, because of entrepreneurship, there's not too much room for the program partner to facilitate a particular kind of topic to be addressed, just because it will still come down to the entrepreneurs themselves identifying, well, this is the particular problem and how they discover that solution. But if the program itself does have a certain theme, we have been known to be able to still fit within that theme, whether in the past we've seen things as complex as male toxicity, all the way to purely women financial youth programs as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Of course.
I have one additional question. Are the entrepreneurs coming to you, or are you going out and finding them?
So we're going out and finding them, right? By definition, we are finding the overlooked. And as I already said, the underestimated. These are individual youth who many times might be the C and D students that are not the ones winning the business plan competitions or the pitch competitions. And so we really put a lot of energy, even within our school partners, to find the youth who, again, are being overlooked and really require the most engagement. And so we just have a very intensive process to find those youth, and just as relevantly, once we have them, to continue engaging them. And that's a lot of the culturally contextual learning I was referring to earlier, where, how we begin teaching individuals who's an entrepreneur, and more importantly, seeing themselves as an entrepreneur. There's a lot to say there, but that's how we begin to find our youth.
Look at all the solutions presented today. This makes me so optimistic for the future. And wow, like, those were amazing. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Each fellow has their own room in the Hubbelow room function. So those will open up shortly, where you can go and meet the fellows, ask them questions, and get to know their work on a deeper level. Again, each one has their own room, their own Hubbelow room function, and they'll be opened up shortly. So please go in there and meet the fellows and ask them questions and get to know them on a really deep and meaningful level. That would be so wonderful. Thank you.